Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, today we want to have a look at some of the notes for the upcoming Ubuntu release 21.04, codenamed Hirsute Hippo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that completely right. I don't know where these come up with some of these names, but I'm calling this one Hungry Hirsute Hippo. No, it's not necessarily a memory hog or anything, but what we wanted to do is just have a brief look at some of the release notes. I did spin it up in a VM, and really as of now, it's not quite yet out there in the beta, and so we're not going to look at the distro itself. We'll just kind of talk briefly about some of the updated notes from OMG Ubuntu and my thoughts about that as we go through. And really right now, it pretty much looks the same. It just has the new code in the back and some of the packages are up to date. And so with that, let's go ahead and have a brief look over at the article here. So here's where we can get some information, OMG Ubuntu, and they will actually have a download link down in the bottom. If you want to play around with the download, you can go ahead and grab the daily build of it. Of course, the betas will not be out yet. So it is scheduled to be released April 22nd, so about 6 weeks or so from the time I am recording this, and this succeeds the Ubuntu 20.10. Now, for you guys that are new to Ubuntu or new to Linux, to understand a little bit about how the Ubuntu development goes, they release on pretty much specific days. They have a very rigid development cycle. This might be a good thing, this might be a bad thing. It has served them well over the years. There's been a few times that it kind of hurt them in a few places, but that's what they do. Now, you will find the Ubuntu LTS, which is what a lot of your Ubuntu-based derivatives are built on. Those ones are the even number 04s. So 1804, 1604, 2004. Those are the ones that are going to be the LTS. So this one's not an LTS. The non-LTS have about 9 months of life when you get them installed, and they're really kind of like a semi-rolling. So if you do want to use Ubuntu with some of the latest features, you want to be on these rolling builds, and then if you already have Ubuntu 2010, you will be able to upgrade to Ubuntu 21.04 very easily without wiping your system when it is time to do that. And so that is really one of the advantages. And that if you do want to keep the no real changes, just security updates, that's when you stay on the LTS or one of the derivatives. So with that, let's go ahead and have a look at what is coming on down the line. So really this one under the hood is going to be, most of the changes are going to be under the hood type things. New features, new versions. There's a few things that are going to be a little bit different for you guys. One of them is that this one is shipping with Wayland out of the box. Now, Ubuntu tried this a couple years ago and it was an absolute miserable failure. A lot of this is just because Wayland really wasn't ready. It may or may not even be ready for prime time now, but they're going to give it another try because it is a priority for the Ubuntu team to get the distro running with Wayland by the next LTS. And so releasing it with Wayland now, even if it's not perfect, is going to give them the chance to get people submitting bug reports, find out all the kinks, and really start developing now for that next LTS, which is coming out in about a year from now. And so I think it's a good move. It's not my favorite. I personally like staying on X for now. You can still set that. This is just changes the default to Wayland. So if you are having issues or Wayland just doesn't work with some of the applications, just log out and log back in under your session with X instead. So that still works, but that's really why they are doing that. So we have a little bit of their schedule here. So there's no more features as of now. We're recording this in early March. In about a week from now, there will be a UI freeze. Then we have the 21.04 beta is coming out April 1st. And no, that is not a joke. Kernel freeze by the 8th, and then the beta release candidate on the 15th, giving us about a week and a half of testing before it comes out. So those are subject to change. Now, GNOME 40 has come out. Ubuntu's made the decision not to move to GNOME 40 yet. They're going to stay on 38. Right now, I think the one installed is 38.4. And the reason is GNOME 40, which I haven't even looked at yet, but GNOME 40 is actually it's a radical departure. A lot of things have changed, and the Ubuntu team felt as though they needed more time to understand what type of changes and make things work and fix some bugs with it. So they're going to keep 3804 or 38.4 for this version coming out. Also, no GTK4 yet, but that's okay because most apps are still running GTK3. So this really is a transitional time for GNOME as they roll up to GNOME 40 and GTK4, but Ubuntu is holding those back for now for the simple reason that this is what things are going to work better on. So I think that that's overall a great direction. We do have some of the applications, Nautilus, Calendar, and the terminal remain on the old 3.38 versions, at least for now. And you can actually, you will hopefully be able to get the GNOME 40 running with a PPA down the road. And they mention that OMG Ubuntu will update the article with those. So this is basically a summary here. Wayland is the default. X is still available. It's just Wayland is your default. They are making the home directory private to make it more secure. This prevents people from seeing it if you're not logged in under your user account. That could be good, could be bad, depending on the case use. I know for me on this development computer, I use this for all my different channels, and there's times I need to get in there and tinker around with another user account on here that might interfere with what I do, but oh well, it's good for security. It's good for privacy. I'm all for it. It is going to be running Linux kernel 5.11. I believe that the daily build that I downloaded is still on 5.10 right now. Dark theme is the default. We do have LibreOffice 7.1. Now, this one here is the first one that they're branding as the Community Edition. This did cause a little bit of back and forth with some people a while ago when they first announced it, and I did see one article saying that LibreOffice was a little mad that businesses haven't switched to the big business enterprise versions for some businesses. I haven't looked into that a whole lot more. But if you see it says LibreOffice Community Edition, that's actually a fairly popular thing in the FOSS. It just means that this one is the one that's the free version, which can be used freely for most cases. And then they're using this as the development branch to go into the business enterprise versions, which generally are a lot more stable and will help fund the creation of the software itself. So if you do have a large company using LibreOffice, you should probably look into that. But if you boot this up and see 7.1, it says LibreOffice Community Edition. That is why. With Python 3.9, CFS improvements, and of course a new wallpaper, which also of course is not shipped with it yet. That usually drops somewhere around the beta, so we don't get a chance to see the new Hungry Hungry Hippo wallpaper. It would be totally epic though if it were like a drawn picture of the Hungry Hungry Hippo game, but I think for copyright reasons that probably will not happen. So you can go ahead and download the version of it over here, over on OMG Ubuntu. This will get you the current daily build. I downloaded my daily build and still had a few updates. Overall, it seems pretty stable, following the current trends that I'm seeing inside of Ubuntu. I'm actually seeing that there's a lot of things that seem to be failing in the background and wanting to do bug reports. Nothing that has stopped or crashed or messed up the system, but there's a lot of those things. Most of the ones I tracked down were related to apt port. And so really, the reason we're not showing it on the screen is it's really nothing new. Nothing seriously has changed. A lot of under-the-hood things. Now, is this a good one to go to? Well, if you're using Ubuntu 21.10, then yes, you should roll up to 21.04 as soon as it is fully released and available. Actually, I would probably give it a week or two. There's always some bugs on the first week. So give it yourself a week or two, maybe 3 weeks max, roll those up. If you're on the LTS, you probably know you're on the LTS for a specific reason. So I would probably not upgrade your LTS to this one. But there's what we have. Obviously, Snap is still a big deal. Snapd is installed in there. And I actually did not open up the Snap store to see if all the repository stuff was fixed, but I'm pretty sure it is because that is something that they did fix quite a while back. I just don't envision that they, backtracked on that one a little bit. So there is where we are in this. So have a look at the new Ubuntu 21.04 if it is your thing, and if it is not your thing, well, then just go ahead and ignore Ubuntu and go on doing what you're going to do. I'll have a look at this when either the beta drops or when the full release drops, one of the two. Let me know if we should look at it closer to the beta or closer to the full release drop, and I'll go ahead and do a brief review of it on the channel then. But for now, I'll go ahead and link the ONG Ubuntu article in the description down here. You can go ahead and have a look at it yourself, and if you like the Ubuntu branch, you can go ahead and download the daily build, give it a test yourself, and see what you think. So with that, thanks for coming along. You can help support the channel over on the website switchedtolinux.com/support. We have affiliates over there. We have Patreon, Subscribestar, etc. You can have a look over there. So thanks for coming along, and hope that you enjoy switching to Linux. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.